Welcome to Real Talk Baseball. I am Will Power, your resident fantasy baseball analyst and host. Today we're going to go over the two-star pitchers for next week, this weekend's weekend streamers, and who is this Elly De La Cruz guy? Let's do a little dive into him. All coming up on Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. All right, welcome everybody. So to begin today's show, I am going over the news and notes that have been kind of coming up in the last week or so. So Julio Urias threw a 15 bullpen session on Tuesday, and the next step is to throw off a mound, which is supposed to happen tomorrow, Saturday. He should start a rehab assignment next week and be back in the Dodgers rotation in about 2 weeks. And the Dodgers could really use that help after sending Gavin Stone back down to AAA after a couple clunkers. Jacob deGrom threw a bullpen session on Wednesday, and after trainers saw how that went, they are supposed to be making a decision on when his rehab assignments will start to come. Brandon Woodruff has started a throwing program, but will probably not return to the Brewers rotation until after the All-Star break. Cedric Mullins, this was a big hit for myself and a lot of fantasy owners. Cedric Mullins hits the 15-day IL with a groin strain. There are a few outfield replacements that we can talk about real quick that are not owned universally. The first one that I definitely want to talk about is Jordan Walker. He is a top prospect in the St. Louis Cardinals organization, third base and outfield eligibility. He was off to a really hot start on the beginning of the season. He made the 25-man roster for the Cardinals to start the season and was sent down to AAA and just recently made his return. So before making his return, he batted .274 with 2 home runs, but that .274 is a little misleading because in the beginning of the season, he was batting closer to .400. And the last couple weeks that he was in the majors still, he wasn't hitting the ball. So it brought down his batting average pretty significantly down to a .274, 718 OPS. So the general thought process from the Cardinals was that he just wasn't hitting the ball in the air enough, and he got sent down to the minors to try to work on some things and try to put the ball in the air a little bit more, get that launch angle up. And apparently he said that he's just kind of given up on that, on trying to figure out how to do that. But he is a top prospect in all of baseball right now. He is the number one prospect. So I wouldn't put it past anyone that, he's going to be a fantasy relevant player for the rest of the season. And currently in Yahoo, he is 58% rostered. That's up 18% from last week. So people knew he was coming. He did go 0 for 1 today. I'm not sure if that game is over or if he was just a pinch hitter. Probably just a pinch hitter. But yes, if he is available in your leagues, please add him. He is a good one to stash until he finally gets on that hot streak. Another player that we can talk about with outfield eligibility is Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor's expected stats are actually very, very good. And before he had that catastrophic injury a couple of years ago, he broke or dislocated his ankle. It was pretty bad. If you haven't seen the video, go ahead and try to look for that and watch it. But last few games, he's looking really good. On yesterday, he wasn't in the lineup. He had some wrist soreness, but on the 31st, a couple days ago, he went 4 for 5 with a home run, had 6 RBI and a stolen base. Game before, he went 2 for 3 with a run and 2 RBI. 0 for 4 the game before that, but it seems like he's on a pretty decent little hot streak right now. So that's another one. He also has first base eligibility. So those are a couple that I can recommend to replace for Cedric Mullins. Brian De La Cruz is another one. He's only 48% rostered. Outfielder for the Marlins. Decent plate discipline. He's batting .295 with an .804 OPS. And with that roster percentage, I'm assuming it's going to skyrocket pretty soon. So get out on your waiver wire and make those ads whenever you get a chance. Let's see. Eduardo Rodriguez hits the 15-day IL with a left index finger pulley rupture, something that I am actually not too familiar with. I tried to look it up a little bit, but it just seems like he just has a lot of pain in his pinky that runs up his hand. Typical time frame for recovery is 6 to 8 weeks. So starting pitcher replacements, that's really hard. Starting pitchers are really hard to come by, especially this season. So good luck with that. No, just kidding. If you guys have any questions in particular about any pitching replacements or if you definitely don't want to drop Eduardo Rodriguez. If you have an IL spot, you definitely want to stash him away and possibly drop someone else if you don't want someone just kind of hanging around on your bench. Next, we have Brewer shortstop Willie Adames was hit in the head with a foul ball off of teammate Brian Anderson. He will be reevaluated at the end of this week, so hopefully he'll be back in the lineups sometime this weekend. Aaron Savali returns from the IL on Friday to face the Twins today, and his first matchup back since early April. Are we starting or sitting? Aaron Savali, he's been fantasy relevant in the past, but I don't like starting non-ace pitchers after a lengthy absence, and since he's been out for a couple months, I wouldn't necessarily put him into my lineup right away. Jorge Polanco should return soon, as he was recently seen running the bases after hitting the IL with a hamstring injury. And Jorge Polanco, the second baseman for the Twins, means that they had to get rid of someone from their 25-man roster. So it looks like Edouard Julien, the prospect in the Twins organization, has been sent back down to AAA. After Aaron Hicks signed a 7-year, $70 million contract with the Yankees, he was DFA'd and was just signed by the Orioles. What does this do for his fantasy value? I don't think it really does much for his fantasy value. If anything, it downgrades it a little bit. He'll probably be playing every day, at least until Cedric Mullins comes back from the groin strain injury list. Aaron Hicks was, I believe, 31 when he got that contract from the Yankees. So he is a little bit on the older side. I don't think that he can handle center field the way that Cedric Mullins was. But he will be playing a lot. Most likely he'll be playing every day, but it'll be a combination of outfield and DH. In 5 outfielder leagues or 15 teams or deeper, he's definitely one that I would like to pick up. When players get DFA'd by a team and then end up signing with another team, a lot of times, all they need is just a change of scenery to kind of get their mojo going a little bit. Royals DFA'd Hunter Dozier after he signed a 4-year, $25 million contract in 2021, only a couple years ago. So apparently he wasn't worth that $25 million. Padres signed Gary Sanchez, and he's already hit 2 home runs in the past 3 games with the Pods. Luke Voit has been DFA'd by the Brewers after the former slugger batted .221 with 0 home runs this season. In 2020, if you guys remember, he was actually the league leader in home runs in the shortened 2020 season. So it's really surprising to see 0 home runs from Luke Voit, especially batting in Milwaukee. Manny Machado was reinstated from the IL today, so make sure you get him in your lineups. Reds third base prospect Elly De La Cruz has been completely crushing the ball in AAA this month, batting .347 with 10 home runs. If he is available in any of your leagues, go out and add this man now. If he's going to take up a bench spot for the next week or 2 or however long it takes for the Reds to smarten up and finally bring this man up, it does not matter. This guy is a potential game changer. He possibly has some Rookie of the Year pedigree. And he's just a beast of a man. He stands at 6'5". A lot of people have Compared him to O'Neal Cruz from the Pirates, who about a month ago slid into home and ended up breaking his ankle. But yeah, third base prospect, Elly De La Cruz. If he is available in your league, add him now. Let's see. I actually have a little bit of notes on that. So, Elly De La Cruz. Here we go. Currently the number 4 prospect in all of baseball. He has shortstop and third base eligibility. Fellow Reds prospect Matt McLain has been brought up to the majors a couple weeks ago, who's batting .354 with a .940 OPS, 2 home runs and 1 stolen base in 65 bats since his call-up. He has shortstop eligibility. With Elly De La Cruz coming up, I'm assuming that he's either going to take over for Nick Senzel at third base, who's currently batting .267 with a .745 OPS and 4 home runs and 4 stolen bases and 150 at-bats. Or there's a lot of buzz about Jonathan India currently, who could possibly be traded sometime soon before the All-Star break. Jonathan India is a former Rookie of the Year. He's currently batting .277 with a .781 OPS and 5 home runs and 8 stolen bases this season. So whatever the Reds decide to do, it looks like Elly De La Cruz is on his way to the majors. In the minors in his professional career, he has kind of skyrocketed through each division of the minors. Started in low A, worked his way up to double A, and worked his way up to triple A this season. And currently, batting against triple A pitchers, he's just crushing the ball. So I wouldn't doubt very much that if he does make it up to the majors soon, that would stop. Especially in the division like the National League Central, where there is not really a lot of good pitching, and hitting in the second best ballpark in the majors for hitters. I think Elly De La Cruz is someone that could be a potential game changer for you. So make sure you get Elly De La Cruz in your lineups today if you can. Let's see. Twins prospect Edouard Julien has been sent back down to AAA after batting only .200 with 2 home runs in 42 plate appearances this May. That's it for the news and notes. Oh, let's see. All right, let's go into the 2-star pitchers. And I actually have a edit that I worked on. 2-star pitchers for next week. We have Braxton Garrett versus the Royals and the Chicago White Sox, and Alex Faedo at Philly and versus the Diamondbacks. And let me get rid of this little 2-star pitchers banner so you can see the leftovers, my 2 favorites after Braxton Garrett and Alex Faedo. If those 2 are not available, you can go after Zach Greinke or Tommy Henry. Now, first talking about Braxton Garrett. So Braxton Garrett is 25 years old, 6'2", 200 pounds on the Marlins. Expected batting average against has not really been his friend this season. He's at a 288 expected BA. In his first few starts in the majors this season have not really gone his way, but in his last 4 starts, he's allowed 2 runs or fewer. Most recently against the Padres, he had 14 swing and misses on 79 pitches, 12 on the slider, 9 on the changeup, 8 on the cutter, 5 on the sinker, and 3 on the curve. His previous start at Coors Field, he only allowed 2 runs on 6 hits in 5 innings pitched. And with the Royals and the White Sox coming up, I think those are both really good matchups, and he's been on a little bit of a hot streak lately. Alex Faedo of the Detroit Tigers he's at Philadelphia and versus the Diamondbacks. He's 27 years old. He's a big dude, 6'5", 225. Rookie last year, which was a little surprising because he is a little bit on the older side. Expected batting average is a 277. Expected batting average against, is a 277. His ERA is pretty high, 5.54. but his expected stats are actually a lot better than his real stats. He has an expected ERA of 3.12. His WHIP is at a 0.92. Expected slug is only at a 4.12. Average exit velocity allowed is 88.5. The launch angle against looks pretty decent. It's at 18 degrees, which means he's getting a lot of pop-ups, a lot of outfield pop flies. K percentage is at a 25.2, really good. 8% barrel rate, really good. Alex Faedo, I think that he's just kind of been – his record doesn't reflect how good he's actually been pitching. Plays for the Tigers, so the least running – the least scoring team in the majors, and Philly is just not playing like the way that they ended 2022. So I feel like that's actually a very, very good matchup for him in Philadelphia. I know it's somewhat of a hitter's ballpark, but with the struggling offense in Philadelphia, I think he'll be all right. Versus the Diamondbacks. Now, surprisingly, the Diamondbacks, in the beginning of the season, they were on this like crazy hot streak, and they've cooled off since then, but they are currently tied for first place in the National League West with the Dodgers. So that is somewhat of a tougher matchup, but I think with Alex Faedo, with his strikeout rate and expected ERA, I think that he can actually hold the Diamondbacks to 3 runs or fewer, try to get that quality start. If he can at least go 6 innings. The wins are going to be a little bit tough for him because he just doesn't have the run support. But I'm definitely endorsing Alex Faedo for next week. And Zach Greinke, blast from the past, Zach Greinke. He's actually been looking pretty good this season. In his last 4 starts, he's allowed 2 runs or fewer, only issued 1 walk in against the Tigers and 1 walk against the Cardinals. Strikeouts look pretty good. He's at about a strikeout per inning. He's not the ace, the dominant ace that he once was, but that's okay because just because they're not aces doesn't mean they're not fantasy relevant. And with these matchups at Miami and at Baltimore's definitely cooled off a lot since the beginning of the season. And with the struggling Jorge Mateo and Cedric Mullins now on the IL, that makes it even easier for Zach Greinke. And Tommy Henry of the Diamondbacks at Washington and at Detroit, both really good matchups. Let's see. This season, Tommy Henry has a 3.73 ERA. Only 25 strikeouts in 41 innings pitched, but he does allow a lot of soft contact, putting the ball on the ground a lot. Has only allowed 2 runs or fewer in the last 3 starts. Had a shortened start against the Red Sox on the 27th. Don't know why he got pulled early. He allowed 4 runs against Oakland back on 5/16, but since then he's been looking really good. About a strikeout per inning and good matchups. So Tommy Henry, that'll be like the leftovers if Alex Faedo and Braxton Garrett are not available. Thanks, Mom. Thanks for the birthday wish. I appreciate you. And yes, I'm doing this podcast on my birthday because I love to talk about baseball. I love to talk about fantasy baseball. So I appreciate that, Mom. You're the best. Let's see. So that's it for the 2-star pitchers. Now we can go into these weekend streamers. So Saturday, it's already Friday, so we don't have to talk about today's. But sorry, let me get rid of this 2-star pitcher banner. There we go. And let's go into these weekend streamers. Now I got to pull it up real quick. If there's anyone watching that wants to ask any fantasy questions while I am looking this up, feel free. I appreciate you guys being here. All right, June 3rd. Okay. Patrick Sandoval at Houston. No, thank you. Andrew Heaney versus Seattle. Andrew Heaney has been looking amazing in his last few starts. He had most recent start at Baltimore, only allowed 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, only 3 strikeouts in 7 innings pitched. But in a points league, he had 22 points. He went deep into this game, which is very Andrew Heaney-like. So versus Seattle, who's not really doing the greatest right now. I know they have Julio Rodriguez, who's been struggling lately, and the offense just hasn't been there. So yes, go ahead and start Andrew Heaney. Yuri Perez of the Marlins actually has a really good matchup against Oakland, the team with the second fewest runs scored. So, yes, go ahead and start Yuri Perez. Mackenzie Gore versus Philadelphia, yes. Logan Allen at Minnesota, yes. Logan Allen's been looking pretty good. Graham Ashcraft versus Milwaukee. I am going to say no on Graham Ashcraft. He looked pretty decent in the beginning of the season, had some prospect pedigree, some hype about him, but he just hasn't panned out. Mike Lorenzen at the White Sox. I really like this matchup. I think Michael Lorenzen will actually do very well against the Chicago White Sox and probably rack up the strikeouts. They are the swingingest team in baseball, and he does have some swing and miss stuff. So look for Mike Lorenzen to probably go about 6 or 7 innings, more likely 6 innings with about 8 or 9 Ks. Tyler McGill versus Toronto. Tyler McGill just hasn't panned out this season either, so I'm going to say no against Toronto. Tanner Houck. I do like Tanner Houck from Boston, but versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, it has the most runs scored this season, and they're just a phenomenal baseball team in 2023. So I'm going to say no to Tanner Houck. Kyle Bradish at San Francisco. San Francisco's struggling, so I'm definitely going to endorse Kyle Bradish. Marco Gonzalez was supposed to start against Texas, but he has a day-to-day symbol next to his name now, so it looks like there's something wrong with his forearm. He's going to have his Saturday start skipped. And, he's not really too owned. It looks like in ESPN he's only 5% owned. So most likely he's not on your rosters currently. And, just steer clear from him. He's probably going to hit the IL pretty soon. And that's it for Saturday. All right, going into Sundays, June 4th. Tristan McKenzie is making his 2023 debut. He's a little bit more than 70% roster, so he shouldn't be on this list. But, if he is available in your leagues, this is the type of pitcher that you can actually keep in your lineup for the rest of the season. He's probably not going to have the best start coming back from injury. He's been out for a very long time, so it's hard to trust in his first start. But definitely down the stretch, he's going to be good for you. Kodai Senga had his best start of the season recently against the Phillies. Only 1 hit allowed and 9 strikeouts, no walks, no earned runs. I think it's a little bit misleading. I don't think he's that good. His control has not really been the best this season. And he has been walking a lot of batters. And Phillies have actually been striking out a lot, and they haven't been the greatest offense lately, especially with a struggling Trey Turner. And I believe Alec Bohm just hit the IL. So let's see. Bryce Miller at Texas. He struggled against the Yankees in his most recent start. He only went 4.2 innings, allowed 11 hits and 8 earned runs. But he was doing really good before that. So against the Rangers, I know the Rangers have been scoring a lot of runs lately. It's in Texas. I'm still going to say start him. I like Bryce Miller. That one clunker that he had against the Yankees is the only one in the past few starts. So I'm going to trust him for Sunday's start. Tyler Wells at San Francisco, currently 58% owned. I really like Tyler Wells. I'm surprised he's not owned in more leagues than he is. So, yes, go ahead and start him at San Francisco. Brady Singer versus Colorado. This game's in KC. If you're desperate, go ahead and add Brady Singer if no other pitchers that I've talked about before him are available. But I'm trying to, stay clear of Brady Singer if possible. But if you're desperate, like I said, he's fine against a struggling Colorado team. It's not in Colorado, so shouldn't be too bad. Anthony DeSclafani versus Baltimore. Baltimore struggling because of their offensive. Who did we talk about? Jorge Mateo and Cedric Mullins hitting the IL. So, yeah, I'm going to say go ahead and start DeSclafani. Michael Kopech versus Detroit. Michael Kopech has just been walking batters left and right, but against the struggling defense, the struggling offense in Detroit, I think we're fine. And Miles Mikolas at Pittsburgh. Miles Mikolas has definitely been playing over his head. He looked really good against the Royals this past, Thursday? No, Wednesday, something like that. 8 innings pitched, only allowed 3 hits, 1 walk, and 10 strikeouts. Surprising, very surprising for Miles Mikolas because he's not a strikeout pitcher. So against the Pirates, at the Pirates, Pirates have been struggling lately. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say start Miles Mikolas. Taj Bradley, one of my favorites, one of my favorite rookie pitchers this season. Tampa Bay does an amazing job developing their pitching staff at Boston. I know Boston is just that they're kind of taking a page out of the Rays playbook, and they're playing a lot of small ball. They're running, they're bunting runners over and just moving base to base. So they've been pretty decent in that aspect. They don't really have a lot of power hitters other than Rafael Devers. So small ball is definitely the way to go for that type of team. So, yes, I'm going to say Taj Bradley at Boston. Go ahead and start him. Ranger Suarez at Washington. Good matchup. Ranger Suarez just hasn't had that wow start yet, and maybe he's due. So he was most recently at the Mets, 6.2 innings, 5 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Pretty decent, but again, that was against a struggling Mets offense. The Nationals aren't any better than the Mets. So, yeah, go ahead and start Ranger Suarez. Yusei Kikuchi versus the Mets. No, thank you. I don't want any part of Yusei Kikuchi. Domingo Germán versus the Dodgers at the Dodgers, actually. I'm going to say no. I haven't really seen anything from Domingo Germán to actually be able to endorse, starting him against a big offensive team like the Dodgers. Most recently, he was at Seattle, allowed 7 hits, 4 earned runs, and 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts in 6.1 innings. So, against a struggling Seattle offense, he's probably going to get rocked by the Dodgers. Kyle Freeland at KC. So Kyle Freeland has actually been pitching better at Coors than he has away. So I actually trust Kyle Freeland more in Coors Field than I do anywhere else, basically, which is very strange because usually you don't trust starting pitchers that are pitching in Coors Field. Even aces sometimes the ball just travels so much differently in Coors. But at KC, a struggling lineup, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Go ahead and start Kyle Freeland. Brian Bello versus Tampa Bay. No, thank you. I do like Brian Bello, but versus Tampa Bay, no, I'm good. JP France versus the Angels. I really like JP France. I feel like he is going to be a main fixture in the starting rotation for the Houston Astros. Looked okay. Recently had a little bit of trouble versus Minnesota. 3 walks, 4 earned runs, and 7 hits, but he did have 8 strikeouts and a lot of swings and misses. And against the Angels, I know the Angels don't have the best lineup, but they do have Trout and Ohtani that could possibly, brick the game wide open. So I'm going to say no on JP France. Ben Lively versus Milwaukee. I really like Ben Lively. The problem with Ben Lively is that his home ballpark is the second best hitter's ballpark in Major League Baseball, but he does have a 1.99 ERA with a 3-2 record, a .93 WHIP. I wish he was a little bit more available in my leagues, even though his overall roster percentage is only at 6.4%. I do really like Ben Lively, even for rest of season. So if he is available, go ahead and pick him up. If you have any other starting pitchers that you have either lost or are thinking about dropping, I know that a lot of people are kind of fed up with Alek Manoah, Lance Lynn. Ben Lively could very possibly be a good replacement option for either one of those guys if you don't trust Manoah or Lance Lynn anymore. Rich Hill versus the Cardinals. No, thank you. Matthew Boyd at the White Sox. I like Matthew Boyd. He currently has a very inflated ERA of 5.96, but against the struggling White Sox, they have a lot of injuries. I believe Eloy Jimenez just got injured again, so he's not going to be in the lineup. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Go ahead and start Matthew Boyd at the White Sox on Sunday. And that's it for the weekend streamers. And that's actually it for the entire show. We actually got through everything pretty quickly. We are currently at 31 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's see. Julia Octa, thank you for the comment. Let's go. Yes, let's go. Baseball. All right, so that's basically it. Sorry that Javi couldn't make it to the show. He had a previous commitment that he wasn't able to make it tonight. Before I get off, I just want to remind everyone to make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel, please. And if you really liked it, if you wouldn't mind sharing it to your Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media platforms that you guys use the most. So this is Will Power for Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. And if you guys have any questions, you can comment on this video. You can message us on Instagram, search Real Talk Baseball. You can email us at realtalkbaseball@yahoo.com. And thank you for joining us. This is Will Power for Real Talk Baseball, signing out.